Is that your father's blood on your hands, little girl? Sergeant Cole Maddox's voice was calm, too calm. His boot pressed into the dirt beside a man's face, the sun glaring off his badge like a false halo. 9-year-old Nia Carter stood still, staring at her father's body, her own reflection trembling in the black glass of his broken phone. Guess he shouldn't have messed with things he didn't understand, Maddox muttered. The smell of gunpowder and Georgia clay hung heavy in the air, but what he didn't know was that the man he'd just killed, Elijah Carter, Navy SEAL, had already uncovered something that could burn this entire town to the ground. If stories of courage, injustice, and the fight for truth move you, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because today's story isn't just about one man's death. It's about what happens when the system kills a soldier but forgets to bury his mission. Now let's begin. The morning sun spilled across the narrow back roads of Crimson Creek, painting the mist gold and red like a flag no one saluted anymore. The old Ford pickup purred steady, each vibration echoing through the bones of its driver, Elijah Carter, mechanic, veteran, and something else the town didn't know yet. Beside him, Nia, his 9-year-old daughter, clutched her backpack like a shield. The radio hummed soft gospel through the static. Elijah tapped the steering wheel in rhythm, the way he used to during deployment nights when silence was dangerous. "Daddy," Nia said, breaking the calm. "Our class project's about heroes. Ms. Lang said we gotta pick one." Elijah smiled without looking away from the road. "That right? Who'd you pick?" She hesitated, twisting the strap on her backpack. "You," he laughed quietly. "Me? Baby, I just fix engines." "No," she said, shaking her head so hard her braids brushed her cheeks. "You fix everything. You fought in real wars. You help people even when they don't pay. That's what heroes do." Elijah's fingers tightened on the wheel. The morning light flared through the windshield, blinding for half a second. "Heroes," he murmured half to himself. "Sometimes they just get tired of fighting." A hawk circled above the highway. The rearview mirror caught a flash, a black SUV following at a measured distance. Too close, too familiar. Elijah's smile faded. He eased off the gas, letting the truck coast around a bend. "You okay, Daddy?" "Yeah," he said softly. "Just thinking." He remembered the message he'd left on Isaac Doyle's encrypted channel the night before. "Got something big. Need to talk." They're watching the creek again. The file sat in a hidden compartment beneath the passenger seat. Flash drives labeled H12 to H16, chemical manifests, satellite photos, proof that Helvian Systems was poisoning their own town. He glanced at Nia, small and unaware, humming along with the radio. His heartbeat steadied. Whatever came next, he'd keep her safe. "Hey," he said, forcing warmth into his tone. "You still like dolphins?" She grinned. "Yeah, why?" "Maybe we'll drive down to the coast next week. See some real ones." She nodded eagerly, not noticing how his eyes lingered in the mirror again. The SUV was gone now, or maybe just waiting at the next turn. Elijah's phone buzzed once on the dashboard. Unknown number, he ignored it. The signal in Crimson Creek was never reliable, and neither were promises from men in suits. The town sign appeared ahead, "Welcome to Crimson Creek, where heritage runs deep." He almost laughed. Heritage. That word had buried more truth than any grave. Nia leaned her head against the window, watching sunlight break through pine trees like shattered glass. "You think people ever stop lying, Daddy?" He took a breath before answering. "Not until someone makes them." She nodded as if it were a math fact. Elijah reached across and squeezed her hand, feeling the small pulse against his calloused skin. The world outside seemed peaceful again. Birds, breeze, the faint scent of oil and morning dew. But behind them, miles down the road, the black SUV idled in silence. The man inside lifted a phone. "Target confirmed," he said. "Proceed as planned." At 7:42 a.m., the Ford turned toward Main Street. By sundown, the man inside that truck would be dead, and the truth he carried would ignite a war. Main Street in Crimson Creek woke slow, like an old dog rising to stretch. Bakery doors swung open. A church bell chimed 9 times, though the clock swore it was 8:57. Elijah Carter eased the Ford to the curb outside Riverbend Elementary and looked at his daughter like fathers do when they wish time would stop. "Text me after science," he said. "I will." Nia hesitated, then hugged him around the neck. "You promise we'll see the dolphins?" "Promise." She hopped down, sneakers kissing pavement, braids bouncing. Elijah watched until she disappeared beyond the blue double doors. The world seemed ordinary again. That was the trick of it. He shifted into drive. A patrol cruiser slid from a side street with the lazy confidence of a cat that owns the fence. Lights off. Nose to tail. Elijah's eyes found the mirror. Sergeant Cole Maddox at the wheel. Thick forearms. Sunglasses that never reflected anything but other people's fear. The cruiser flashed once. No siren. Just a wink. Elijah pulled over near the pine stand that guarded the eastern edge of town. Needles whispered in the breeze like men trading favors. Maddox approached, hand already resting on the grip. "Morning," Elijah said, window halfway down. Calm voice. Visible hands. Rules he taught himself. Rules he taught Nia. "Tail light," Maddox answered, not looking. "License and registration. It's not broken." Elijah kept his tone neutral. "But you can check." Maddox smiled the way men smile when the end of the conversation was decided before the first word. "Step out of the vehicle." "May I ask?" "Out." Elijah cut the engine and stepped into sunlight that felt too bright. Gravel crunched. Somewhere, a lawnmower coughed to life. Ordinary sounds got louder when danger moved in. Maddox circled him once, a slow orbit. "You still working at the garage, Carter?" "Most days." "Heard you been taking pictures down by the creek." "Fishing pictures," Elijah said. "Uh-huh." Maddox stopped at the passenger door, glancing at the seat seam where a hidden compartment waited with the patience of a locked confession. "Pop the glove box. I'd prefer—" "Pop it." Elijah opened the door. The glove box spilled napkins and a warranty booklet. Maddox didn't bother searching there. He leaned lower, eyes tracking the seam. He knew. Someone had talked. Or someone had followed. Another cruiser rolled up. Officer Brent Hale, younger, jittery. He positioned himself at an angle that said he'd practiced drawing on cardboard silhouettes. "This won't take long," Maddox assured, almost friendly. "Unless we find something that makes it long." Elijah's pulse slowed the way SEAL training taught it to. Breathe, count, anchor. He weighed choices, fight, run, fold. None would keep the evidence alive if the men in front of him owned the story and the soil. "Mind if I record?" Elijah asked, lifting his phone an inch. Maddox's smile thinned. "Mind if I say no?" "Public stop," Elijah said quietly. "My right." Hale's hand jumped to his holster. "Gun!" Elijah didn't move. "There's no gun." A beat of silence stretched like wire about to snap. Birds stuttered in the pines. "A truck downshifted somewhere far away." "Hands on the hood," Maddox said. Elijah complied. Palms flat on sun-hot metal. He looked at the windshield's faint reflection, his own eyes steady. He thought of Nia's small hand in his that morning. He thought of Isaac Doyle, of the message he'd left. "If I don't make it, you know where the key is." "Search the cab," Maddox told Hale. "That's not legal," Elijah said. Maddox leaned close, breath warm with coffee. "What's legal depends on who's writing the report." "Then write it true." The smile vanished. Maddox reached past Elijah toward the passenger side, fingers brushing the seam where truth slept on 5 thin drives. "Don't," Elijah said. Hale misread the flinch. "Weapon." His pistol cleared leather with a panicked scrape. "No!" Elijah started, turning half an inch. Palms still open. The first shot cracked the morning, the second folded time, the third stole it. Elijah collapsed against the hood, slid to the gravel, and the pines caught their breath and held it. The wind went still. Even the church bell forgot what hour it was. His phone clattered beside him, still recording nothing but the sound of boots and the static hiss of a radio. Maddox holstered slow, as if unhurried movements could erase loud decisions. "Officer-involved discharge," he said into his mic, voice smooth. "Suspect reached under the seat." Hale swallowed, eyes wide, gun trembling. He moved." He reached, Maddox repeated, slower, as if teaching phonics. You feared for your life. A distant scream tore across the school parking lot, high and raw. A child's voice that had not yet learned how to hold grief without spilling it. Maddox didn't turn. He crouched, studying Elijah like a broken part he never intended to fix. Should have stayed a mechanic, Carter. On the gravel, blood found a groove and followed it toward the ditch. A thin red line pointing to the trees where barrels lay half-buried and secrets slept shallow. Maddox stood, dusted his hands, and finally glanced toward the school. He saw nothing but sun glare and the faint shape of a girl who had lost her map. He didn't see the black SUV pause at the bend. He didn't hear the camera shutter inside it click 3 times. He didn't know the footage would surface when the town least wanted light. The radio crackled again. Units en route. Maddox looked up at the sky, squinted, and smiled without humor. Make it neat, he told Hale, and for God's sake, don't forget the tail light. A gull's cry cut through the pines. Wrong bird, wrong county, wrong omen. By the time the sirens arrived, the narrative was already dressed for church, but the creek remembered, and the creek doesn't lie. If the law is a story men tell, who gets to edit the ending? Rain pressed soft against the windows of Nia Carter's house, the kind of rain that didn't wash anything clean. The TV in the corner replayed the same headline, Officer involved shooting ruled justified. A still photo of Elijah Carter flashed, uniform, smile, folded flag. The news anchor's voice stayed even, trained not to shake. Nia sat curled on the couch, her knees drawn to her chest. Her small fingers traced circles on the fogged glass. She hadn't spoken much in days. Each night she woke calling for him, saying she heard the truck door slam, the same sound over and over. Layla kept telling her it was only dreams, but the child's eyes said otherwise. Across the state line, Isaac Doyle sat in a diner booth off I-75, coffee untouched, TV volume low. When Elijah's name appeared, he froze. The word suspect reached under the seat, scrolled by like a lie in subtitles. Isaac replayed the message on his phone. Elijah's voice, grainy but calm. Got something big. Need to talk. They're watching the creek again. Timestamp, 2 hours before he died. Isaac slid a 20 under the cup and walked out. His motorcycle waited under the neon buzz. The road south stretched wet and endless. He rode until the rain turned to mist, and the pine lines swallowed him whole. By dawn, Crimson Creek looked the same as the photos Elijah once sent. Gas station, church, silence. He parked behind Carter's garage. The sign faded, door chained but not locked. Inside, the air smelled of oil and metal dust. Tools hung like soldiers in formation. The workbench was neat except for one thing. An open toolbox with a false bottom slightly raised. He pried it loose. A small flash drive fell out, wrapped in tape. On the tape, 3 words. The dump site. He slid it into his laptop. Static, then video. Grainy night vision, shaky handheld. Elijah's voice whispering, Helvian trucks, same route every Thursday. They dump near the old creek bed. Headlights illuminated barrels leaking dark fluid into the soil. Another voice spoke, low, commanding, Don't film me, Carter. You don't know who you're messing with. The image swung toward a badge. The lens caught a single name tag before the screen cut black. Maddox. Isaac leaned back, exhaled slow. The ghosts had fingerprints now. He copied the file twice, pocketed one, destroyed the original. Then he walked to the phone on the wall and called a number he hadn't dialed in years. Layla, he said when she answered. I'm sorry. Silence stretched. They said it was justified, she replied, voice brittle. I saw the footage. It wasn't. The rain hit harder then, as if the sky objected. Layla covered the receiver with her hand, glancing toward the living room where Nia slept under a blanket. She dreams about him, she whispered. She says he tells her not to open the door at night. Isaac closed his eyes. Don't. Not for anyone. You think they'll come? They already did, he said. Now they'll clean up what's left. She hesitated. What do you need from me? Keys to the garage. Access to his case files. And his phone if you still have it. She swallowed hard. They took it for evidence. They'll bury it, Isaac said. Just like him. A clock ticked somewhere far off. The line hissed with rain. When she finally spoke again, her voice was different, steadier, colder. "I'll get what you need." Isaac nodded, though she couldn't see. "Good, because this isn't over." He hung up, pocketed the drive, and turned toward the workbench again. The window beside it reflected his own tired face, a soldier without orders, a friend without a grave. On the mirror above the tool rack, Elijah's handwriting lingered in grease pencil. "Keep your engines honest. They'll return the favor." Isaac wiped a thumb across the words, leaving half the sentence ghosted in smudge. Outside, the creek roared louder from the storm, carrying the runoff from somewhere upstream. He stepped out, rain drumming his shoulders, eyes scanning the tree line. A black SUV idled across the street. Engine on, lights off. Isaac didn't move. The driver's window rolled down halfway. A camera lens glinted in the dark. He smiled once, thin and grim. Guess the ghosts still want company. The SUV drove off slowly, taillights bleeding red through the rain. He turned toward the sound of the creek again, where barrels slept beneath the mud and stories waited to breathe. Some ghosts don't haunt places. They haunt the truth you tried to bury. The morning after the storm, the world pretended to start over. Streets shimmered clean, but the smell of oil still rode the wind. In the Carter house, the blinds stayed drawn. Layla poured coffee she didn't drink while Nia watched raindrops crawl down the window like they were searching for something they'd lost. A knock came. 3 short taps, 1 pause, another tap. Seal rhythm. She opened the door and found Isaac Doyle, rain jacket zipped, eyes alert. The same eyes she remembered from Elijah's wedding, sharp, assessing, holding too much history. He stepped inside, scanned the corners out of habit. "You still keep the TV on low volume?" "It keeps the quiet away," Layla said. "Quiet's dangerous here." He nodded once, dropped a flash drive on the counter. "This was in his toolbox." Layla picked it up, turning it over like evidence in court. "You watched it?" "I wish I hadn't." They moved to the kitchen table, the only place that felt steady. Isaac plugged the drive into her laptop. The screen filled with static, then flickered alive. Elijah's voice came first, calm, professional, the way he sounded during briefings overseas. "Trucks arriving." 2 guards. "Standard route, no lights." A night vision frame revealed men in uniforms rolling drums down a slope toward the creek. The labels glowed faint under infrared. Helvian industrial waste, toxic. Another voice barked from behind the camera. "Shut that off." A flashlight flared, catching a face in partial light, Sergeant Cole Maddox. Then a gunshot, a curse, darkness. Layla's hand shook. This alone could... Isaac shook his head. "It's not enough. They'll call it doctored. They'll bury it like everything else." "What are you planning?" "Same thing he planned," Isaac said. "Finish it." Nia appeared in the doorway, hair tangled from sleep. "Mom?" she whispered, forgetting again that Layla wasn't her mother. "I dreamed Daddy said the man with the badge isn't done." Layla froze. Isaac crouched, meeting the child's eyes. "What else did he say?" "That the Black River isn't water, and that I should stay away from the bridge." Layla exhaled sharply. "She hears things. Trauma, they say. Or memory," Isaac said quietly. He might have shown her something before he left. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a printed still frame. Maddox beside a Helvian truck. Time-stamped 3 weeks earlier than the police report claimed. This image alone proves perjury. He said he'd never been near that site. Layla stared at it. "If we leak this, we die with him." Isaac's tone stayed even. "If we don't, we let them win." A car door slammed outside. Both froze. Isaac moved to the window. A county cruiser idled by the curb. No lights, no siren. 2 silhouettes inside, watching. "They've been parked there every night," Layla whispered. "Say it's for my protection. Then they'll hate what I'm about to do," he said. He unplugged the drive, pocketed it. "I'll back this up in 3 places. Cloud, encrypted mail, and somewhere they can't subpoena." Layla followed him to the door. "And then?" He paused, hand on the knob. "Then I find the rest of the footage. The missing minutes. Someone in Helvion recorded everything." "Who?" "An engineer named Patterson." Elijah mentioned him once, said the guy disappeared after filing a complaint. Layla swallowed. If he's still alive, he won't talk. Then we'll let the evidence talk. He opened the door halfway, scanning the street again. The cruiser drove off slow, tires hissing on wet pavement. Isaac stepped out. The morning light sliced through cloud cover like a blade, catching his face for just a second. Behind him, Nia's voice drifted from the hallway. "Uncle Isaac?" He turned. "When Daddy talked in my dream, he said the video's not the secret." "What is then?" "He said the creek is." The words hung there, fragile but heavy. Isaac didn't answer. He just nodded once, as if accepting orders he couldn't refuse. Then he started the engine, tires crunching over gravel as he pulled away from the house that still smelled of coffee and ghosts. Layla watched from the porch, clutching the photograph until her knuckles went white. The wind shifted, carrying the distant sound of running water, dark, endless, and alive. Because in Crimson Creek, the dead never stopped talking, and sometimes they told the truth louder than the living. The call went out at midnight, not through encrypted servers or official channels, but through something older, a promise made in a desert 12 years ago, sealed in blood and silence. When Isaac Doyle hit send, the message was only 3 words. He's gone. Help. Across 4 states, phones buzzed in the dark. Men who hadn't spoken in years stopped breathing for a moment. Reaper Unit, once the Navy SEAL team no one admitted existed, began to stir like muscle memory coming back to life. By dawn, Isaac waited in a storage hangar outside Savannah. The air smelled of salt and rust, same as deployment mornings. On the table lay everything he had: Elijah's footage, a partial map of Helvian's waste routes, and a printed obituary that used the word suspect 3 times. He didn't have to wait long. The first to arrive was Cade Doc Rayner. Medic turned, paramedic, face lined but eyes still sharp. He dropped a duffel bag with the thud of metal. "You serious this time, Doyle?" "We swore we were done," Isaac nodded. He found something real. "They killed him for it," Doc exhaled, rubbing the scar on his jaw. "Then I guess we ain't done." Next came Omar Wells, sniper and cynic, now working security at a port warehouse. "Thought Carter was the steady one," Omar said, lighting a cigarette he wouldn't finish. "Guess steadiness gets you shot these days." Isaac slid the flash drive across the table. "Watch that. You'll see why he died." The screen flickered alive, showing the same night vision scene: barrels, creek, gunshot. Silence followed. Doc looked away first. "Omar didn't blink. That's our old gear," Omar muttered. "Helvion bought government surplus. I'd bet my pension the guy funding this sits higher than Maddox." Isaac nodded. "A man named Henry Lawton, CEO, ties to defense contracts, private security, congressional donations." "He owns half this county," Doc asked. "And the sheriff?" "Owned by him too." They stared at the footage again. A faint voice in the background whispered a date. Isaac froze, replaying the frame. June 17th. That was 2 days from now. Omar leaned forward. "Dump schedule?" "Exactly," Isaac said. "If we catch them in the act, no one can bury it." Doc frowned. "You planning to fight a corporation with 3 men and a camera?" Isaac zipped the drive back into his pocket. "No, I'm planning to fight a lie with proof." The hangar door creaked open. A 4th man entered, Lieutenant Pierce, once their commanding officer. He hadn't aged so much as hardened. "Still think you can clean the world, Doyle?" he asked. Isaac looked up. "No, just one corner of it." Pierce glanced at the files, at the men, at the ghost of Elijah in the room. "Then let's get to work." They split tasks fast. The way soldiers do when orders are unspoken. Doc would dig medical reports on residents near the creek. Rising cancer rates. Unexplained rashes. Omar would tap into Helvion's drone feeds, searching for illegal disposal. Pierce would secure a van, IDs, and a live uplink system to stream whatever they captured. Isaac would return to Layla, to keep Nia safe and extract whatever else Elijah left behind. As they packed, Doc asked quietly, "You think Elijah knew he'd die?" Isaac paused, hearing his friend's laugh in his head, the kind that filled silence like sunlight. He always knew someone had to go first. Outside, thunder rolled over the coast. The storm had shifted inland, heading straight toward Crimson Creek. By the time Isaac reached town limits, the local news had already changed the narrative. Community mourns mechanic involved in tragic confrontation. Officer cleared of wrongdoing. A neat headline. A clean story, but lies never stay clean for long. He pulled into Carter's garage again. The locks were broken this time. Inside, drawers overturned, papers scattered. Whoever came wasn't looking for money. They were looking for the missing drives. Isaac scanned the floor. Oil streaks, boot prints, one shell casing. Recent. He drew a breath, steady. Then crouched by the wall panel where Elijah used to keep the emergency key. Nothing. He stood, caught sight of movement through the cracked window, a figure across the street. Phone raised, taking photos. He didn't chase. Not yet. Instead, he whispered to the empty air, "You were right, brother. The war just changed uniforms." Back at the hangar, the Reaper unit's plan unfolded like an old playbook reborn. 8 men now. 2 techs, 1 pilot, 1 hacker. The mission name scrawled on the whiteboard, Echo-proof. Their goal wasn't revenge, it was exposure. By nightfall, encrypted feeds came alive, static bleeding into clarity, Helvion's trucks, the Creek Road, the same coordinates. June 17th. Isaac looked at the timestamp, then at Elijah's photo taped to the board. "We'll be there," he said softly. "And this time they won't get to erase the footage." Outside, the storm began again, steady, relentless. Like the sound of boots returning home, the storm came without warning, a wall of rain swallowing the town whole. Isaac Doyle sat inside Layla's kitchen, every light off except the one above the table. Between them lay a pile of folders marked Helvion Systems, Environmental Compliance. They were thick with signatures, legal seals, and lies printed in 12-point font. Layla rubbed her eyes. "Half these documents are fake," she said. "The dates don't match. The lab reports were copied and pasted. They even reused the same water sample photo 3 times. Isaac flipped a page with a gloved hand. Helvion didn't bother hiding it. They never thought anyone would look. He laid down a map, lines of red ink tracing the flow of the creek, branching into neighborhoods, schools, the park where children played. Every dump site connects to public water lines. "They're poisoning the town from the ground up," Layla's voice dropped. "That's murder," Isaac nodded. And Maddox made sure no one called it that. Thunder rolled over the roof. He opened Elijah's final notebook, the one they'd found behind the false panel in the garage. The first page held coordinates and 3 names. Maddox, Sheriff Rowe, Lawton, the triangle of power. Layla pointed to the bottom corner. "What's that code?" "Shipment ID," Isaac said. "Same one tied to the barrels we saw on camera." He pulled a thumb drive from his jacket. "And I think Elijah managed to download the ledger before they caught him." He slid it into her laptop. The screen blinked, then filled with rows of transactions, untraceable accounts, military budgets, local law enforcement grants. Each payment marked consulting fee. The sums totaled in the millions. Layla stared at the numbers. He was building a case big enough to take down everyone. "That's why he died," Isaac said. They needed a body, not a whistleblower. The power flickered. For a second, the house went dark except for lightning washing the windows white. Isaac reached instinctively for his weapon. The thunder came again, closer. When the lights returned, Nia stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed dolphin. "Uncle Isaac," she whispered. "There's a car outside." He moved to the curtain. Headlights glowed through the rain. A county SUV idled by the curb. A silhouette inside spoke into a radio, then shut it off. Layla whispered, "You think it's them?" "It's always them," Isaac said. He turned back to the laptop. "I'll copy everything. Then we go." He clicked upload. Progress bar, 12%. The storm made the connection crawl. Outside, the SUV door opened. Boots splashed through puddles. Someone was coming up the walk. Layla grabbed Nia, backing toward the hallway. Isaac killed the light and drew his gun. The first knock shook the door. "County Sheriff," a voice called. "We need to ask a few questions." Isaac whispered, "Don't answer." The second knock was louder. Ms. Carter, this is about your brother's case. Layla held Nia tighter. The upload ticked to 68%. Isaac's heart counted each percent. A third knock. Then the handle turned. Locked but rattling. He moved to the side of the doorway, weapon low. The laptop pinged softly. Upload complete. He yanked the drive free, slipped it into his pocket, and motioned for Layla to take Nia out the back. She nodded, tears catching the lightning. They slipped into the hallway just as the front lock splintered. The door burst inward. 2 deputies entered, rifles up. Maddox followed, soaked and smiling. "Evening, Doyle. Funny seeing you home." Isaac kept his weapon down, half hidden behind the doorframe. "You don't have a warrant." "Don't need one," Maddox said. "County emergency? Chemical leak, remember?" He gestured at the dark laptop. "Now hand over what you stole." "I don't steal from the dead," Isaac said. "Then you'll join him." Lightning flashed again. Isaac dove sideways as the first shot tore through the wall. The sound deafened the room. He rolled, fired twice, one round into the doorframe, one into the ceiling light to drop them in darkness. Maddox cursed, stumbling backward. Isaac hit the floor behind the counter, reloading fast. Outside, sirens wailed closer, not rescue, but backup. The storm masked footsteps as Layla and Nia slipped through the back gate toward the garage. Maddox shouted over the thunder, "You think you can win, soldier? We write the reports now." Isaac's voice was calm. "Then I'll give you a new one to write." He fired once. The bullet shattered the porch light, sparks raining onto wet wood. Maddox ducked, yelling for retreat. The deputies dragged him out. Tires screamed as they sped off, leaving smoke and silence behind. Isaac stood, breathing hard. The kitchen reeked of gunpowder. He looked at the cracked laptop, its upload still glowing green. Somewhere out there, copies of the Helvian files now lived on 3 encrypted servers. He picked up Elijah's notebook from the floor. The last page held only 5 words, written in smudged ink. "The creek leads to proof." Isaac closed the book, stepped into the rain, and followed the sound of the water. It was louder now, not just a creek, but a pulse under the town's skin. If justice had a current, it was moving fast. The night cut the power first. Every house on Main Street went dark. Every porch light blinked out. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of copper and smoke. Layla tucked Nia into her coat and whispered, "Quiet now," as they crossed the back alley behind Carter's garage. Isaac was already there, hood up, flashlight wrapped in red cloth. "We've got 10 minutes," he said. "Helvian's men are sweeping the block. They'll pretend to be deputies." From far away came the hum of engines. Not sirens, generators. "They're cutting communication lines," Isaac muttered. "They want isolation." Layla glanced toward the horizon where faint orange light flickered. "They'll burn evidence." "Not before we move her," Isaac said. He took Nia's hand gently. "You remember me, kid?" She nodded. "You found Daddy's voice." He smiled, brief and tired. "Yeah. We're going to keep it safe." They moved through the alleys, each shadow thicker than the last. Rainwater pooled around their boots. Somewhere behind, a door slammed and boots splashed. "They're here," Isaac said. He drew his pistol low, guiding them toward the train yard. A single headlight flared behind the fence. A black SUV rolled slow, windows tinted, no plates. Voices carried over static, men with radios coordinated. The hum of a drone circled above. Layla whispered, "We can't outrun them." "We don't," Isaac said. "We vanish." He led them to a maintenance shed, old and half-collapsed. Inside, crates of rusted tools and oil drums made walls of cover. He found the hidden panel Elijah had built years ago, a service tunnel leading under the tracks. "He planned every exit," Isaac said softly. "Even from death." Layla helped Nia crawl inside first. A flash outside cut through the boards, a camera flash, quick and deliberate. Isaac cursed under his breath. "They're marking us." He stayed behind the doorway, eyes narrowing. Footsteps closed in. Then a voice he knew too well. "Evening, Doyle. Where's the girl?" "Maddox." Isaac leaned just far enough to see him. Raincoat, shotgun, that same hollow grin. "You never quit," Isaac said. Neither did your friend Carter, Maddox replied. Look how that ended. Isaac raised his weapon. You killed the wrong man. Maddox laughed. There are no wrong men, only inconvenient ones. The first shot tore a plank from the wall. Splinters rained down. Isaac fired back, one round grazing metal. The shed filled with smoke. Move! He yelled to Layla. She pushed Nia deeper into the tunnel, heart pounding. Outside, headlights converged. More SUVs, more men. Isaac dropped behind a barrel as bullets chewed through wood. He pulled a flashbang from his vest, yanked the pin, and rolled it toward the open door. The explosion was blinding. He dashed through the haze, catching Maddox in the shoulder with a clean shot. The sergeant spun, cursing, firing wild into the rain. Isaac reached the tunnel entrance. Go! He shouted, sliding in after Layla and Nia. They crawled through darkness while gunfire echoed behind them like thunder in a canyon. The tunnel opened into the creek bed, water running high, black under moonlight. Layla gasped. Barrels, dozens of them, lined the banks, half submerged, oozing slick rainbows of poison. Nia whispered, That's the smell from Daddy's clothes. Isaac turned to her. He found this place. This is what they're killing to hide. A new sound cut through the rain. Rotor blades. A helicopter swept low, searchlight slicing the trees. Isaac dragged them beneath the bridge. Hold still, he whispered. The light passed, faded. Layla looked at him, eyes fierce. What? Now? He stared at the barrels, the glowing sludge seeping into water. Now we finish his mission. He took out a waterproof case from his pack. Drone, micro camera, live transmitter. If they want to hunt ghosts, let's give them a haunting. He launched the drone. It rose above the creek, recording every barrel, every license plate, every badge number reflected in the toxic sheen. Maddox's voice shouted through the rain below. Find them! The girl first! Isaac's jaw clenched. They won't touch her! He guided the drone higher, signal linking to the Reaper unit's uplink van outside town. The feed came through clear. Doc's voice echoed through the earpiece. We got it, brother! Streaming live! The first viewers saw it within minutes. Toxic waste dumping, uniformed men, coordinates tagged to Helvian property. And then Maddox's face turned up toward the drone, rage lit by floodlight. Layla whispered, He knows. I want him to, Isaac said. The roar of engines grew louder. We move now, he said. Back to town. We meet the others at the courthouse before they can shut it down. Layla lifted Nia, wading through the rising water. Isaac followed, eyes locked on the glow from the drone above, proof flying higher than bullets could reach. Behind them, Maddox screamed orders lost in the storm. The creek kept its current, pulling secrets downstream. In the dark, Nia turned once, whispering, Daddy, it's working. And for the first time, Isaac almost believed her. Dawn came bruised and heavy. The storm clouds hung low over Crimson Creek, smearing the horizon in dirty gold. The courthouse square was still littered with barricades and soaked flyers, justice for Elijah Carter printed in fading ink. Isaac Doyle parked 2 blocks away, headlights off. In the back seat, Layla cradled Nia, the child half asleep, still wearing Elijah's dog tags around her neck. The tags clicked together softly, like a ticking clock counting down. Once we start this, Layla said quietly, there's no taking it back. Isaac nodded. Good. The truth shouldn't fit back in a box. He checked his watch. 9:43 a.m. At 10, Helvian's board would meet inside the courthouse with Sheriff Rowe and Sergeant Maddox. The press briefing would be streamed live to the same networks that called Elijah a thug. Isaac's plan was simpler. Hijack that feed, just like Elijah had tried to do. He stepped out into the cold air. Doc and Omar were already waiting by the side entrance, disguised as county maintenance workers. Their van was parked nearby, antenna bristling like insect legs. Feed's ready, Omar said. We've got a 5-minute window before they trace the uplink. Doc handed Isaac an earpiece. You get one shot, brother. Make it hurt. Inside, the courthouse smelled of damp wood and cheap cologne. The fall meeting room on the second floor buzzed with tension. Men in tailored suits, badges, and self-importance. Maddox stood near the podium, shoulder wrapped from the gunfight, his smirk intact. "Let's make this quick," he said. "Town's got better things to watch." Isaac slipped through the service corridor, ghost-like. Every creak of the floorboard felt like thunder. He reached the breaker room, opened the panel, and plugged in the transmitter. Red light blinked. Live. In the van, Omar grinned. "We're on air," Maddox began his speech. "Today we close the file on a tragedy." The monitors flickered. His voice stuttered mid-sentence. Then the feed cut to a new video. Aerial footage of the creek, the barrels gleaming under lightning. Audio followed. Maddox's own voice from the night before. "Find them! The girl first!" Gasps rippled through the room. On every screen, the footage rolled. Timestamps, faces, coordinates, serial numbers linking Helvian's toxic dumping to county law enforcement. The shot of Maddox firing into the darkness froze on screen, his badge illuminated in the flash. "Turn that off!" he shouted. But the tech's hands trembled. "It's locked!" The door burst open. Isaac stepped in, weapon holstered, eyes cold. "Let it play," he said. Maddox lunged for him, but Doc appeared from the hallway, leveling his rifle. Not today. The men in suits stood frozen, pale. One of them, Helvian's CEO Henry Lawton, tried to bluster. "This is illegal intrusion. You'll hang for this." Isaac threw a folder onto the table, printed ledgers, signatures, the full Helvian files. "You already hung yourselves. We're just holding up the mirror." The courtroom doors burst open again, deputies rushing in, weapons drawn, only to halt as federal agents poured through the opposite entrance. Flak vests marked FBI. Sirens wailed outside. Lawton stammered. "Who called them?" Layla stepped into the doorway, Nia in her arms. "I did," she said, "using the file Elijah uploaded before you killed him." The room went still. Nia lifted the dog tags, their metallic clink echoing louder than any gunshot. "My daddy said truth always floats." One agent approached Maddox. "Sergeant, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence, and murder." Maddox laughed bitterly. "You think prison scares me?" Isaac looked him dead in the eye. "No, living with what you did should." Maddox swung, a desperate punch that never landed. Isaac sidestepped, grabbed his arm, twisted it hard until bone cracked. The agent cuffed him while he howled in pain. Across the room, Lawton backed toward the window. "You don't understand. We were building progress." "Progress doesn't glow in the water," Layla said. Reporters, already outside for the briefing, caught every second through the glass. The story hit the airwaves before the agents even finished reading rights. By noon, Crimson Creek's name trended nationwide. EPA officials confirmed contamination. State police suspended every officer involved. The town that tried to bury one man's truth had dug up its own grave instead. Later, when the crowds thinned, Isaac stood on the courthouse steps. Rain began again, gentle this time. Layla came beside him, Nia leaning against her shoulder. "She'll never forget this day," Layla said. "She's not supposed to," Isaac replied. "Neither should they." Down the street, Reaper unit packed up their gear, silent, efficient. They didn't celebrate. They just nodded once to Isaac and disappeared into the rain. Nia tugged his sleeve. "Uncle Isaac, Daddy's not coming back, right?" He knelt, meeting her eyes. "No, sweetheart." But what he stood for did. The courthouse clock struck noon. For the first time in months, the sound didn't echo like a warning. It sounded like a beginning. Morning sunlight returned to Crimson Creek, soft and gold, glinting across water that no longer shimmered with oil. 3 months had passed since. The courthouse broadcast, but the town still felt suspended between guilt and rebirth. Helvian signs had been torn down, replaced with federal cleanup markers and EPA tents. The stench was gone, replaced by the metallic tang of machines purifying the poisoned earth. At the edge of town, Isaac Doyle stood by the creek's bend, where Elijah Carter once fished with his daughter. Now Nia sat on the same rock, tossing pebbles into the water. Each ripple caught the sunlight like a mirror. "You think it remembers?" she asked. Isaac looked at the current. "Water always remembers. It carries everything: truth, lies, blood. It just takes time to bring it back." Behind them, Layla walked from the car, carrying a folded flag and a small wooden box. "Elijah's ashes," she said quietly. "They're finally home." They held a small memorial at the water's edge. No cameras, no reporters, just wind, birds, and the endless murmur of the creek. Layla placed the flag beside the box and whispered, "You were right, brother. They couldn't bury it forever." Isaac knelt beside Nia. "You ready, kid?" She nodded. Together they opened the box and scattered the ashes into the stream. The gray dust swirled, mingling with the clear current, carried downstream toward the river. Toward the ocean Elijah had once crossed in uniform. Nia whispered, "Goodbye, Daddy." The words broke Isaac in places he didn't know were still fragile. He looked up at the trees, hearing the echoes of a gunshot, a cry, and the promise that followed. He always kept his word. Layla joined them, eyes wet but steady. "EPA says Helvian's entire board is facing federal charges," she said. "Environmental terrorism, racketeering, conspiracy. It's going to trial in D.C. "Good," Isaac said. "Let them see what truth looks like when it's angry." She smiled faintly. "And the Reaper unit?" "Gone," he said. "Back underground. Some ghosts don't need graves." The breeze carried the scent of fresh rain and new soil, the first clean air the town had breathed in years. The rebuilt Carter's garage stood nearby, now a community workshop with a painted mural on the side, Elijah's face beside the words, "They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds." Nia traced the mural's outline with her fingers. "Miss Jenkins says they're naming the park after him." Isaac smiled. "He'd hate that. Why?" "Because he didn't do it to be remembered. He did it so everyone else could live." For a long moment, none of them spoke. The town was quiet, not the silence of fear, but of healing. The creek, once black with waste, now reflected the sky's soft blue. Layla broke the stillness. "You staying?" Isaac shook his head. "For a while. Long enough to make sure the new sheriff isn't another puppet." She nodded, understanding. He'd never stay still. Warriors like him didn't rest. They just changed battlefields. He turned toward Nia. "You know, your dad used to tell me something before every mission." "What?" "You can't control the storm, but you can choose who you stand with when it hits." She looked up at him. "And who are you standing with now?" He smiled. "You, kid. Always." They watched the current carry Elijah's ashes out of sight, merging with the wider river. In the distance, church bells rang noon, the same hour justice had arrived months before. A new mural was being painted across from the courthouse, this one of Tanya Cruz, the journalist who died chasing the story. Underneath, the words read, "Truth is louder than bullets." Isaac turned to Layla. "You think it's over?" She shook her head. "Justice never ends. It just changes hands." He slipped his hands into his jacket pockets, feeling the weight of Elijah's dog tags inside. As he walked away, his reflection rippled across the water, fading, reforming, like a shadow learning to rest. The camera of memory would linger a moment longer, on the creek, on the flag, on the girl who had once stood with a gun and asked the question that woke a nation, "Why did you kill my daddy?" Now the world finally had an answer, and the water, at last, was clean.